Hello everyone. Today I'm here to talk about my least favorite books of 2021. So we talked about my favorite books of 2021, so inevitably it's time to talk about books that I didn't enjoy. And before I even get into it, let's just go ahead and throw a big old disclaimer out there. No, everyone has different tastes. There could be books on this list that I mentioned that you are very appalled by. That's one of your favorites, and I think that's awesome. I'm glad it's your favorite. It personally just wasn't my taste. Not one book everyone is gonna love, you know what I mean? Like, everyone has different opinions. That's what makes the world go round. So if there's a book on this list that you love, keep on loving it. You do you. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. I personally didn't love it, and that's okay. You guys know I don't like bashing books, but there's always just gonna be books that you read that you just don't enjoy. Just like there's movies you watch that you don't enjoy, music you listen to that you don't enjoy, TV shows, so on and so forth. There's always things that you love, and there's some things that you're just not a fan of. And these are the books that I read in 2021 that I just wasn't a fan of. So disclaimer is done. Let's get into it. I only have about 5 or 6 books to talk about, so not too many, but let's get into it. The first book is, I think, the first disappointment that I read in 2021, and that is If I Disappear by Eliza Jane Bergier. I was very excited for this one because it had a podcast element into it. And if you don't know me, I love any sort of books with podcast elements, and I think a lot of us do. I made a video all about it. So any that's like a hook line for me. Like if I hear a book has a podcast element into it, 90% chance I will listen, 90% chance I will check it out, at least like look at the synopsis and probably read it. So this one, you have to forgive me, forgot all the characters' names, probably don't know much about all these books because again, I didn't really love them. But either way, we have a woman character that really loves this true crime podcast. She is obsessed with it. She listens to it every night. It helps her. It's gotten her through her divorce. She's kind of lonely, not happy. And basically she notices that her favorite podcast person goes missing. She stops uploading, nobody knows where she is, and she's like, you know what, all of these, listening to true crime podcasts, watching shows have prepared me for this exact moment. I'm gonna find the host of my favorite podcast. I'm gonna find her. She's missing. I can do this. And so she goes like up to this really like kind of obscure, just kind of in the middle of nowhere, like farm on the mountain where her favorite podcast parents live, and starts working on their farm like incognito, trying to figure out pieces of where she could be, and it kind of goes from there. And that sounds amazing, doesn't it? Like that reels you in. And sadly, it was just boring to me. Not a lot happened. I think the best part of this book was the synopsis. I will say the ending. The ending was pretty shocking, and I did enjoy the ending. The ending definitely got me. I did not expect that or see that coming at all, but I enjoyed it. But everything in between was just kind of, you had your classic unreliable narrator. You had you're in a very small kind of town that's kind of maybe cultish. I don't know. It just didn't work out for me, sadly. I didn't really love it. I don't know the reviews of this book. Maybe people loved it. I just personally was very disappointed by it because I was so excited for the whole podcast element into it, because I know there's a lot of people, not me, that love true crime and podcasts. The most extent I do is watching Murder Mystery Makeup by Bailey Sarian every Monday. But a lot of other people watch the shows, listen to the podcasts, documentaries. They they're prepared for these scenarios really. So I thought that was really cool, and it just sadly didn't deliver for me. So yeah, moving on is Shipped by Angie Hockman. This one, I wouldn't say it's a least favorite. This is kind of this could be a least favorite / disappointing list. This one was trying to really be a mixture of The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren and The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, and combine them together, and that's what it wanted to be, but sadly it wasn't. It was just kind of, I don't want to say again, boring. It just, not a lot happened. It's about 2 characters that work in this kind of like a cruise line. It's a very, very small cruise line, and there's a promotion coming up, and they both are vying for that promotion, and the boss is like, hey, you've never been on one of our really small cruises, so how can I promote one of you guys if you've never even experienced it? So he sends them both to the Galapagos Islands, the Galapagos Islands.
I don't know, the Galapagos Islands.
I love that.
Really?
Yes, as a jumping off point, yes.
And you kind of go from there. There's lots of turtles, things like that. And like I said, it was just trying to be a mixture of The Unhoneymooners and The Hating Game, but it just wasn't. It wasn't there for me. I didn't really feel the chemistry between the main characters. I just didn't really love it a ton. This one's not a major hate or disappointed or anything. I just thought that it was trying to be something it wasn't, and I just wasn't really feeling it. Next up is an overhyped book that I read and that I don't get the hype. And that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. In fact, I've already read the second book, I think, and I didn't even read it because like I skimmed it because I was like, I didn't really even read it. Anyway, I read it because number one, it was getting so hyped up here on BookTube and just in the book world in general. Number two, it kind of had that vampires element into it. And if you guys don't know, another like hook, line, and sinker thing for me is vampires.
Who are you?
I'm Buffy, the vampire slayer, and you are?
I mean, I can make a whole list of things that will make me automatically buy a book, like podcasts, vampires. I could go on, Hate to Love, you know, things like that. But this book, I will say it was boring. It was huge and it did not need to be nearly half the size it needed to be. It was just not a lot happened, so much so that I can't even remember what the whole plot line was. I think you had a character that wasn't supposed to be looked at or seen, and one of her guards finally notices her and they start like a romance and he kind of kidnaps her or something like that, and he's a vampire. I could be 1000% wrong. I don't even remember. It was just kind of boring. And I've learned since reading this that I am just not a fan of Jennifer Armentrout's writing. I just don't jive well with it. I don't like it. So that's just me. I know she's got a huge fan base and that's great. And if you love her books, that's awesome. They're just not for me. And it's taken me years to finally be okay with admitting that authors are just not for me. I could do a whole video on that. But you know, I don't want to bash an author that you love and that I don't like, you know, but that's okay. Everyone's got authors that like maybe other people love that you're just like, not really feeling it. I don't get it, but I'm glad other people are feeling it. And that's the exact case with Jennifer Armentrout. I just don't really jive well with her books. So like I said, I skimmed the second book. I think there's a third book. I'm not even gonna bother with it. It just didn't really, I don't see why it needed to even be, I don't know. Moving on. A book that I was like very apprehensive about it, but also simultaneously hopeful, if that makes any sense at all. And that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is technically the fourth book in the Court of, you know, series, which I do enjoy. I really like them. I mean, I like the whole fairy kind of night court, you know, day court, spring court. I do like it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was trash for it. I will say that. But when we learned that this book was going to be about Nesta, my expectations dropped a lot because I don't like Nesta. Nesta's a character that is just horrible in my opinion. And I thought, you know, maybe this will be her chance for a redemption arc. She'll redeem herself and I'll love her. But I was still very apprehensive, and I still, while finishing the book, is still feeling very apprehensive. Nesta has gone through a lot, that's for sure. She has had a lot of trauma. But I just think the way she handles it is very different. And it's not to say anything. Everyone handles trauma differently. There's no one right way to handle trauma. But I just don't enjoy Nesta just because I think that I just don't like her character. And that's okay. There's characters in book series that we just don't like. And Nesta is one of them for me. So
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly.
The fact that she got her own book was just, and that wasn't even the biggest problem for the book for me, was not just Nesta. I do think Nesta kind of redeemed herself and she became more likable in the end, and she became more open and more honest, and, you know, finally let her heart open up a little bit, and that's great. But the biggest problem I have with this book is that I don't think that it needed to be nearly as long as it was, and the whole plot that they had in it, you know, with a lot of fantasy books, there's this big problem and you spend your whole time, you know, working to that big problem, getting to that problem and fixing it. Well, that problem in this book got finished within 2 pages. We spent like 400 to 500 pages like thinking about this problem, like planning, executing, thinking, and then we get to the problem, it's done in a page, and I'm like, what was the point of this? Like this, it wasn't like, it didn't need to be there. It was there because it just kind of had to be there in the formula way of doing it. I feel like if she just wrote a book that was strictly like, this is going to be about Nesta redeeming herself, it doesn't have really a big plot, it's more about a character-driven book, that would have been okay with me. But the fact that we spent so much of this time going to this big plot problem, this big epic fight, things like that, and to not even really like go with it and like it'd be done like that, it just makes no sense to me. Like, why was it in there? Why was this book this long? It did not need to be this long. I digress. I don't know. There's big fans of Nesta out there, and that's great. I love Cassian. He is a character I love, so I was excited to see more of him. But I don't know. This one was probably my biggest like gripe of the whole year because it just didn't make sense to me, honestly. And I'm sticking to it. I know there's a lot of people that agree with me, and there's a lot of people that disagree with me. It is what it is. So yeah, I don't want to I feel like I have spent a lot of time talking. But I don't know. Will I continue on with the series? Yes, probably, because I do like Sarah J. Maas's writing, and I'm a sucker for it, sadly to say. But I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be about Nesta. It's gonna be about Nesta again. I want that. I'd rather have an Elaine book or a Lucian book. Oh my gosh, I would love that so much. That's a character I really want to dive into more, like figure out more about him. I would love that. A Moore book. Oh my gosh, there's just so many other characters that I was just like more excited about than Nesta. Moving on. My last book is one that I just didn't enjoy. I wasn't like overly excited for it, nor was I like overly disappointed with it. I just remember reading it and I was like, oh, I just really don't like this book. And that is a holiday book. That happens. Sometimes holiday books are just not that great. And that is Nick and Noel's Christmas Playlist by Cody Hall. I read this one because 'tis the Christmas season and I like reading holiday romances. I'm a sucker for them. And this one I think the writing was the really big problem with me. I didn't enjoy the writing at all. I thought it was very, I don't want to say this, simplistic. It's so hard for me to judge writing because I'm not a writer, nor do I desire to be a writer. I really don't. I don't think I could write. Like if somebody was like, I will give you $1 million to write a book, I would be like, oh crap, I don't know. I'm not a good writer. It's hard for me to judge writing because I'm not a writer, but I just really didn't like the writing in this. I just really didn't. So this is all about two characters named Nick and Noel who are best friends and been best friends for a while. Nick is in the army and he's overseas for a while and he's been in this serious relationship and he gets back and his girlfriend like immediately breaks up with him. She's like, bye. And he's obviously heartbroken about it. And so he confides a lot in his best friend Noel, and they like pretty much like, they don't fake date necessarily. They just kind of make out in front of his ex-girlfriend to make her jealous, which is not the best thing, but then they realized after they kissed, they were like, oh, maybe I really have feelings for them. And that's kind of it. Like, it's a cute Christmas story, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I just didn't love the writing at all. Like, I just remember like, oh my gosh, I need to finish this book because I'm not a huge fan of it. So, I mean, this one is like, you know, should I put it on this list or not? I don't know, but I just remember really not liking it. So I think it was like one of the only 2 stars I gave of the whole year. I don't like doing that. I hate giving 2 stars. I mean, I don't think a lot of people do, but you know, it is what it is. But anyway, those are the 5 or 6, I don't know how many it was, a handful of books that I didn't enjoy in 2021. We all have them. It's okay. If I mention any of your favorites, I am deeply sorry. You keep on loving them. You keep doing you, I'll keep doing me, and we can still be friends, I promise. But either way, you know, it's okay to talk about books that we love, and it's okay to talk about books that we don't like. It's okay. But either way, if you enjoyed this video, great. If not, I'm sorry. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.